Welcome, everyone, to a tale shrouded in mystery and horror. Today, we will delve into the chilling case that unfolded on Halloween night in 2013 in Brooklyn. Anthony Seabell, a 19-year-old young man, was shot dead by a figure clad in a Ghostface costume during a festive night. Despite numerous witnesses, the identity of the killer remains a mystery, and the case remains unsolved. Join me as we embark on a haunting journey to uncover the truth behind the death of Anthony Seabell. Where restless souls and dark secrets await revelation, will the darkness be banished, or will the truth forever lie hidden in the shadows? Halloween Horror: The Mystery of Anthony Seabell's Death. Chapter 1: The Terrifying Halloween Night. Brooklyn, on Halloween night in 2013, came alive with twinkling lights and the laughter of teenagers. Strange and eerie costumes transformed the streets into a vivid tableau of fear and excitement. Amid this mystical atmosphere, a chilling breeze swept through, carrying a sign of something dark lurking nearby. Anthony Seabell, a 19-year-old, stood in the crowd, sensing the thrill in the air. Yet, an unexplainable feeling gnawed at him, as if something was wrong. Not far away, a figure dressed as Ghostface lingered, with a long black cloak and a pale white mask, sending shivers down Anthony's spine. The familiar image from the horror movie he had watched suddenly came to life in a terrifying way. "See anything, Anthony?" a friend called out from afar, laughter ringing out. "Your costume looks awesome. Forget about those creepy guys and just have fun." Anthony forced a smile, but he couldn't shake off the strange sensation enveloping him. The gaze of the Ghostface figure seemed to be tracking his every move. "Do you see that guy?" Anthony asked, pointing at the mysterious man. "Don't worry, it's just a prank," his friend said, chuckling. "It's Halloween, there's nothing to fear." But Anthony's anxiety couldn't be easily dismissed. He decided to leave the crowd, seeking a quieter place to breathe in some fresh air. As he stepped into a dimly lit alley, the faint glow of the streetlights barely illuminated the lurking shadows in the corners. The atmosphere grew darker, and the music from the party seemed to echo faintly. Anthony felt as though he was stepping into another world, where horrifying things could happen at any moment. Suddenly, a cold wind swept through, carrying whispers that sent chills down his spine. Something felt strange in the air. Out of nowhere, the Ghostface figure appeared from the shadows, face hidden behind the white mask. He approached slowly, his gaze full of obsession. "Are you one of the happy ones?" he asked, his voice cold as the wind. Anthony froze, unsure of what to do. The figure moved closer, and in that moment, panic set in. "Get away!" Anthony yelled, backing away and running out of the alley, his heart racing as if it might burst. But the darkness wouldn't let him go. When he turned back, he saw Ghostface still standing there, grinning as if he had been waiting for him all along. Anthony had no idea that tonight would become a fateful evening. Returning to the party, laughter still rang out, but now there was a heavy feeling in his chest. His friends were having a great time, blissfully unaware of the lurking evil. Anthony decided to share his experience, but doubt lingered in his mind. "You can't seriously think that's just a prank, right?" a friend teased, smirking. "Don't let it scare you. It's just a prankster." So Anthony tried to push down his worries, but inside, a part of his soul was screaming. He glanced at his friends, unable to shake the thought of the Ghostface figure lurking in the darkness. Every shadow seemed to grow larger. Every noise turned into a terrifying sound. As the night wore on, the party began to dwindle. Friends trickled out one by one, but Anthony stayed behind, trying to clear his mind. He decided to take a stroll, hoping that fresh air would dispel his bizarre thoughts. As the night deepened, Brooklyn grew silent. The weak glow of the streetlights illuminated the empty streets, creating a strange picture. Anthony wandered, watching shadows flit by. The uneasy feeling returned, and he decided to head back to the party. Just as he returned, he heard screams echoing from a nearby alley. "What's happening?" he wondered, and unable to hold back, Anthony ran towards the sound. The scene before him made his heart stop. There he was, the Ghostface figure, but this time he wasn't alone. Anthony saw a motionless figure lying on the ground, and horror surged within him. He realized it was his brother, murdered right before his eyes. "No!" Anthony screamed, but it was too late. Evil had truly taken hold, shattering his life on this memorable festival night. As the light faded from his eyes, the darkness of Brooklyn returned, carrying with it unresolved secrets and fears. Chapter 2. The Mysterious Investigation. The chaotic scene following Anthony Seabell's death transformed Brooklyn into a heavy atmosphere. The laughter and costumes that once filled the streets were now fading memories, replaced by confusion and an overwhelming fear. Time passed, but Anthony's death haunted the minds of everyone. Every gaze sparkled with concern, and chilling stories about the killer were repeated in conversations. The police were quickly called to the scene after Anthony collapsed. But things grew complicated as no one clearly saw the identity of the murderer. He appeared and disappeared like a ghost amidst the Halloween night, leaving many unanswered questions. An investigation was launched, but every lead led to a dead end. There are plenty of witnesses, but no one can identify the Ghostface. Officer Roberts, an experienced police officer, said in a meeting with the investigation team, "This is strange. It's impossible for someone to be present in a crowd and not be recognized." Maybe he was prepared, a colleague suggested, his voice lowering. He knows Halloween is a time when people easily overlook the unusual. While the police worked tirelessly, Anthony's friends felt desperate and decided to take matters into their own hands. Sarah, a girl in the group, was especially worried. Her dreams of Anthony, urging them to uncover the truth, became her driving force. "We can't just sit back and let him get away with it," she told her friends. "But what can we do?" Mike, one of Anthony's closest friends, asked. "The police haven't found anything. We can talk to the witnesses. They might have seen something the police overlooked," Sarah suggested. She felt that if they could uncover even one clue, there might be hope. Eventually, the group decided to split up and gather information from those who attended the Halloween party. They started visiting apartments and bars, asking those who were present. An air of excitement enveloped them, as if they were embarking on a dangerous adventure. As darkness fell, the group had collected some information from witnesses. A man claimed to have seen someone in a Ghostface costume near the shooting area. "I don't know who he is, but I felt something was off," he said, his eyes reflecting fear. "He was just standing there, like he was waiting for someone." "Did you see him do anything strange?" Sarah asked, taking notes carefully. "No," the man replied, "but I felt like he was watching Anthony." Anxiety surged in Sarah's chest. He wasn't just a killer, he was a predator. He had chosen Anthony as a target, and they needed to find out why. "We have to find more information about this guy," Mike said. "He could be someone we know." Meetings with witnesses continued, but no one could definitively identify the killer. Time passed, and fatigue and tension began to mount. "We need a plan," Sarah said, her face showing exhaustion but also determination. "We could investigate other costumed people." Another friend suggested, "Maybe he talked to someone, or there's a clue we can find." As they made plans, a deep-seated fear crept into their thoughts. Shadows from the past lingered around them, haunting images from Anthony's death that refused to fade. They felt as if something dark was waiting. When they returned, Sarah and her friends gathered to discuss what had happened. "Why did he choose Anthony?" Sarah asked, her heart heavy. "Did we overlook something important? Maybe he had a personal motive," Mike suggested, "or maybe he's just a madman." As unanswered questions began to surface, the atmosphere in the room grew tense. Everyone felt that something was off, as if dark secrets were surrounding them. "Did you all hear that noise?" one friend spoke up, making everyone hush. In the silence, they heard strange sounds coming from outside. Giggling, eerie calls, as if someone was watching them. Sarah stood up, determined to find the source of the sounds. "We can't let fear control us," she said. "We will uncover the truth." Chapter 3. The Restless Spirit. The next morning, sunlight trickled through the windows, but the atmosphere among Anthony's friends remained heavy. Just like the night before, Sarah woke up feeling gloomy, as if a ghost was lurking in the air around her. Every small noise from outside made her heart race, like a warning sign of impending doom. "Do you remember?" Mike, one of her close friends, said as they sat together in the dim room. "Last night, when we tried to contact Anthony's spirit, it felt like something really happened." "Yeah, I felt that too," Sarah admitted, excitement evident in her eyes. "I saw images of Anthony, but I couldn't grasp the message he wanted to convey. Maybe he needs help." Just as the group was discussing, one of them, Lisa, suddenly spoke up. I have an idea, she said, her eyes sparkling. We could hold another seance. But this time, let's invite someone experienced. Someone who can communicate with spirits might help us understand better. That sounds reasonable, Mike replied, but his face was still heavy with worry. But is it safe? The killer is still out there. And if he knows we're looking for something, the police haven't found the murderer. Lisa argued, trying to persuade them. Maybe Anthony's spirit will reveal more to us. We need to do something. We can't let him roam free. That afternoon, the group decided to visit a renowned medium in the area. They had heard many stories about her, that she had the ability to connect with the deceased. She lived in an old house rumored to be the site of many strange occurrences. As they arrived, the atmosphere became eerie. The house had walls covered in moss and windows shimmering with dim light. A sense of unease crept into each of their steps. Sarah knocked on the door, and a middle-aged woman wearing a black robe appeared, her gaze probing. "What brings you here?" she asked, her voice warm yet mysterious. "We want to contact a friend's spirit," Sarah said, her heart racing. "We believe his spirit is in trouble." The medium nodded and led them into the house. The inside was quiet, with flickering candles and the scent of incense wafting throughout. "Please sit down," she said, pointing to a carefully set round table. As everyone sat, she began creating a tranquil atmosphere. "You need to focus," she instructed. "Think about your friend's spirit and send your thoughts and feelings to him." When the medium began to pray, Sarah felt a chill wash over her. The candles flickered, and the air grew dense. "Anthony, if you can hear us, please let us know," the medium whispered, her voice laced with enchantment. Sarah closed her eyes, trying to connect with Anthony's spirit. For a moment, his image appeared in her mind, his warm smile, joyful memories, but then overshadowed by haunting images of his death. She felt a force pulling her closer, but it also brought with it a deep-seated fear. "Someone is present," the medium said, opening her eyes to look at the group. "I sense a spirit, but there is a dark force obstructing." Everyone felt a wave of anxiety wash over them. "Is it Anthony?" Mike asked, his voice trembling. "Yes," she replied, "but he is not alone. There is another spirit, an evil presence, and it does not want the truth to be revealed." A cold shiver ran down Sarah's spine. She remembered the killer they were searching for, the shadow of Ghostface still lurking. "How can we help Anthony?" Sarah asked, filled with worry. "Seek the truth," the medium replied, her gaze sharp. "Open your hearts and prepare for what you will see. Anthony's spirit needs you to find the villain. Only when you confront the truth will he be able to rest." As the seance continued, Sarah felt a wave of mixed emotions. From fear to pain, she realized that it wasn't just about finding a killer, it was also about confronting the shadows from the past. When the session ended, everyone left in silence. Sarah felt as if she had just stepped out of a nightmare. They had gathered much information but also sensed the lurking danger. Anthony's death was not just a murder, it had become a curse. A haunting shadow following each of them. On the way back, Sarah and her friends couldn't stop thinking about what had transpired. "We need to find the killer," Mike said, his face set in determination. "If not, we won't be able to let Anthony rest." "That's right," Sarah agreed. "We won't let his spirit be trapped forever." Chapter 4. Strange Clues. As dawn broke, Brooklyn seemed still enveloped in the gloom of Anthony Seabell's sudden death. The dry leaves fell on the sidewalk like the city's tears, and the atmosphere remained heavy, blending memories of joy with tragedy. Anthony's friends decided not to sit idle and wait. Instead, they would investigate and uncover the truth themselves. "We need to know more about the killer," Sarah said, determined to fill the void left by the police. "We should look into the costumes from Halloween night. They might know something. Maybe we can find a clue from those who attended the party," Mike suggested, his eyes sparkling with hope. They might have seen something suspicious. The group decided to split up. They would visit various bars and parties to gather information while also collecting accounts from witnesses present on that fateful night. A tense but hopeful atmosphere enveloped them. As evening approached, Sarah and her friends had gathered some information from those who had attended the Halloween party. A girl named Jenna had seen a strange man near the shooting area. "He wasn't just dressed as Ghostface," she said, her eyes filled with anxiety. "I felt something was off. He was lurking like he was watching Anthony." "Do you remember anything else about him?" Sarah asked, carefully noting every detail. Just that he seemed deranged. Jenna replied, her voice trembling, but he wasn't the only one. There were others there, and they all seemed off. This information weighed heavily on the group. They needed to learn more about those who had attended the party. But time was passing, and fear was building in their hearts. They decided to return to the party to investigate further, hoping to find people who might know something. When they arrived, the festive atmosphere still lingered, but now it took on a different shade. The cheerful laughter felt deafening, and the flickering neon lights made everything seem scarier than ever. They stepped into the party, eyes scanning the crowd for anyone who might provide a clue. Everyone, remember that we're just looking for information, Sarah told her friends. Don't let fear make us panic. They began speaking with a few people, but no one seemed to know anything. The probing glances and half-hearted comments made them feel as if they were trying to navigate through a nightmare. But when a strange man appeared, everything seemed to stop. He was dressed as Ghostface. But something was different. The cloak wasn't just a costume, it carried an ominous aura. As if he were the killer they were searching for. Sarah's heart raced, and she felt a cold shiver. Stay calm, Mike whispered as he approached. We can ask him. As the stranger drew closer, his eyes sparkled, but an air of chill surrounded him. Are you one of Anthony's friends? He asked, his voice whispering with mystery. Yes, but we just want to know about his death, Sarah replied, though her voice quivered. He was a fool, the man said, a smirk appearing on his face. Living in Brooklyn and not knowing that evil lurks among the crowd. What do you know about him? Mike pressed, suspicion rising within him. Did you see him that night? The stranger looked at them with vacant eyes as if pondering. I saw nothing, he said, but there's something you need to know. Those wearing masks may not be your enemies. The statement struck like a shockwave, leaving everyone speechless. They didn't know whether he was warning them or just joking. Though uncomfortable, they realized they needed more information. Can you elaborate? Sarah asked, unable to contain her curiosity. We just want to understand the truth. Remember, not everything is as it seems, he said, then turned his back and walked into the darkness. Be careful, for darkness is always lurking. The friends watched him, feeling left behind in a storm. They had no idea what they had done wrong, but they felt something was growing in the shadows, waiting to strike. As they left the party, Sarah felt exhausted and anxious. We must uncover the killer's identity. We can't let him get away, she said, her heart filled with determination. But how? No one knows who he is, Mike replied, disappointment evident in his gaze. We can't live in fear forever. We can look into similar cases in the area, Sarah suggested. Maybe he has surfaced somewhere before. The group decided not to give up. They would continue searching for information, determined to find out the truth about Anthony's death, even if it meant facing the deepest shadows within themselves. Chapter 5. The Eternal Darkness. As dawn once again cast its light over Brooklyn, the gloom from Anthony Seabell's sudden death lingered. The dry leaves fell onto the sidewalk like the city's tears, and the atmosphere remained heavy, a mix of beautiful memories and tragedy. Anthony's friends decided they would not sit idle and wait. Instead, they would investigate and uncover the truth themselves. We need to know more about the killer, Sarah said, determination clear on her face. We should look into other murder cases in the area. These cases might be related to Anthony's death. Mike nodded, his eyes sparkling with resolve. I've heard stories about a killer who used to operate around here. He might have acted elsewhere before coming after Anthony. They decided to return to the local library, where there were old records and documents about past cases. An exhilarating feeling surged through them as they rifled through each page, searching for information that could connect the pieces of the case together. When they found an old file containing details about unresolved cases, their mood grew heavier. One case from the previous year shared similar details. The victim was murdered on Halloween night, and the killer was also described as wearing a costume resembling Ghostface. It seems this guy has struck multiple times, Lisa said, her voice shimmering with worry. And he's still out there. We need a plan, Sarah said, her heart filled with determination. He might strike again. A sense of dread began to creep into their thoughts. They knew that the killer was not just a criminal but a shadow haunting the streets of Brooklyn. That afternoon, as night began to fall, the group decided to hold a memorial for Anthony at the place where he was killed. They wanted to show their respect and confront the evil that took his life. They brought candles, flowers, and a picture of Anthony to place there. Upon arriving at the alley where the tragedy occurred, the atmosphere grew heavier than ever. The flickering light from the candles danced in the darkness, casting strange shadows on the walls. They began to light the candles and pray for Anthony's soul. "We will not forget you," Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "We will find the truth and bring justice for you." But just as their prayers rang out, a sudden cold wind swept through, extinguishing some of the candles. The air grew thick, as if an unseen presence lurked in the darkness. "Something's not right," Mike whispered, his eyes darting to the shadows. "It feels like someone is watching us." "We need to go," Lisa said, filled with anxiety. "This place isn't safe." But before they could leave, a figure emerged from the shadows, standing dimly in the flickering light. The familiar image of Ghostface made their hearts stop. The killer stood there, with a pale white mask and lifeless eyes staring directly at them. "Be careful," he said, his voice echoing as if from another realm. "The darkness is always lurking." The sense of fear exploded. The friends turned to run, but the killer had blocked their escape. They had nowhere to go, their hearts pounding in their chests. It felt as if they were trapped, enveloped by darkness. "We're not your enemies," Sarah screamed, desperately trying to persuade him. "We just want to know the truth." The killer only laughed coldly, as if their panic brought him to light. "You don't know who you're dealing with," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Halloween is just a game." As he stepped closer, a loud bang echoed from behind. Blinding light illuminated the area, and they heard the distant sound of an approaching ambulance. The chaotic sounds of life outside began to dispel the darkness. The police might be coming, but would it be in time? "Run," Mike shouted, and the group sprinted into the shadows, heading toward the sound of the vehicle. They felt as if they were living in a nightmare, fleeing from the ghost of the killer and searching for light in the dark. They dared not look back, only focused on running toward the sound of help. As they neared the main street, they spotted the flashing lights of the ambulance and the police. "We found you," a police officer exclaimed upon seeing them. As the friends were ushered into the ambulance, Sarah glanced back at the alley. The killer still stood there, lurking in the shadows, but now he seemed to have lost his power. The light from the ambulance appeared to dispel his darkness. The story of Anthony Seabell's death has unveiled many mysteries and sorrow in the hearts of friends and family. As the investigation continues without clear leads, darkness still looms over Brooklyn. Will they uncover the identity of the killer? Or will evil continue to wander through future Halloween nights? If you find this story intriguing and want to learn more about other mysterious cases, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any tales. Thank you for listening, and always be cautious, for on dark nights, something sinister may be lurking in the shadows.